Good afternoon. I have 10 minutes, so I'll be a bit faster. I initially thought of making it a bit interactive, but that has to be probably much faster. So the topic, as you see, data-driven marketing. A lot of companies already do that. Our approach, the way we have seen based on our past experience, that is what I have tried to portray in this presentation. Let us start with a live example. This is basically a real case for a product company, global. They had a problem of revenue leakage. 80% of their revenue used to come from renewal of their licenses. And the leakage was due to the piracy, and the countries that they used to suffer, of course, India was one of the prime. So for their marketing team and the compliance team, sales team, it was a nightmare. So they had no clue how to get this, hidden revenue leakage stopped. Now that was the problem statement, and we did a solution for that. Anybody has, very quickly, maybe only two of you can suggest what could be the solution, or how data can solve this revenue leakage for a product company to prevent piracy? Anybody? One or two people? Very quickly. We are running. Yes, please. Well, these softwares are basically in somebody's desk already. For example, they have like Adobe Photoshop. The company was Adobe. In fact, I don't mind sharing this name. This was published in NASSCOM, one of the survey. It was this particular case study was within the top 50 case studies in India last year. Anybody? Yeah. Anyone else? Yes, that is of course like putting the licenses in the cloud. They have already done that, but that's basically a huge number of pirated is already there, and now they are in the migration phase. So they cannot have in one day have those revenue trapped. Okay. The solution was very easy and using data. What we did, they used to give us all the companies list every quarter that they have to follow. It was in the tune of a couple of 100,000, for example. Small, medium, big size company. From there, we used to do a scoring based on some data used to gather from LinkedIn, some social media, as well as some job sites. Not some, like for example, in India, Naukri and Monster. We used to check the guys' CVs are floating whose current employee is that company, and how many licenses that has been purchased. And maybe 100 people company who is doing in graphics area, there are 20 people's CVs floating in the market, unique guys. They are currently working in that company, but the company has purchased only 2 licenses of Adobe. Now when that list, and based on that, we did a segmentation, scoring, and then a segmentation. And then when their guys call those companies, they say, hey, you had 20 people, and these are the name of the people, these are their designation, they work with you, but you only have 2 licenses of Photoshop. What do you want? Like that, the negotiation starts. So they can save a lot of money for their audits that they used to do, like Microsoft does a lot of audit to prevent piracy. Now this is one of the typical example where this was a great success, and they had in first quarter 20% hike in their revenue, straight. So this is a typical example. Not all the problem will be solved in the same way. But in order to have a kind of an unified approach, in our next slide, I'll try to present what exactly are the things that can be done and how this ecosystem can be done using data for marketing. Is it readable by any chance? Can you read this? I don't know. Anyway, so what we already know, we have to do some segmentation, right? And these are already the knowledge that we have. We do some segmentation, then we do some targeting, and based on the target, we do positioning. This is what we already know. But what we need, in addition to this, it cannot be a discrete process. It has to have a continuous process, and then this process has to be frameworked in an ecosystem, which will be a kind of, I will explain the ecosystem in the next slide, but the process has to be very simple. And if you see, first step is identifying the business objective, understand the data, its behavioral variables, etc. Then the data exploration comes within that. Then processing the data, developing model, for example, clustering and all, You can use some K-means, and there are other means as well. Then some testing the model, deploying the model, and then coming back to monitoring. And this is a complete process. It is not showing in this here, I don't know why. It is showing here. So this is basically has to be a continuous process. And the ecosystem, this is basically which supports that continuous model. If you see in the left side, there are sources. If you think for an organization, the data being captured from social media, their OLTP or transactional system, website, market ontology, marketing data, like it might be events, it might be loyalty program, promotion, campaign, email campaigns, and even social media like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or any other thing, blogs and all. Now this is that source. Collecting the data from these heterogeneous sources, there has to be an integration engine followed by an ESB enterprise service bus, which will consist of a big data engine and a data bus. This is more or less this part is standard. Everybody does it. There is nothing unique about it. Now the uniqueness comes to the next 4 modules that you see in the top, in the right side of it. The modeler, optimizer, engager, and collaborator. After you collected this data, you sanitized it, and you had your, the data stored, and the modeler is basically the heart of the ecosystem. It has got 3 components. So once you have this data, the first thing the modeler captures, in the next slide it is elaborated, this modeler part, it has got a rule engine first. So it tries to capture the existing business logic in terms of a rule engine, using a rule engine. That's basically what we say, the knowledge base that the industry already is having. Second is, the data comes and these rules are applied and it is being observed, and then the new patterns or the new rules, either the new rules comes in or the existing rules are updated. That's basically where we are discovering and creating a knowledge base. And the third step is a bit more of machine learning over predictive and prescriptive, where basically you are generating and empowering and creating the wisdom. So these are the clearly 3 steps. And the output, it goes back to the 3 other module, which is the optimizer, engager, and collaborator. What does optimizer do? Optimizer actually always monitors the ROI of the ecosystem, like the marketing ROI, in terms of the customer satisfaction, in terms of the cost, in terms of the operational efficiency. Engage, that's very important. That is also works behind the scene and informs back, takes the actionable insights from the modeler. There are 2 other modules which are basically the interfaces of this marketing ecosystem to the outside world, engager and collaborator. Primarily, they do the same thing, but engager is for the internal stakeholders and collaborator is for the external stakeholders. External stakeholders means, for example, you have your vendors, you've got your partners, others, how you communicate and how you engage them. So this is a very high level. It will take a lot of time to discuss and go one by one, but because of time short, the same example we did, if we go a bit deeper, you'll see the same model has been done using that ecosystem where we got data from not all the sources that was mentioned there, a subset, like internal database was customers, social data, LinkedIn and Facebook, and the job portal, Monster and Naukri, we did it. And after all this, there were sales rules were captured, then scoring was done, segmentation was done, and finally, we had segmented in 4 categories using a prescriptive score, this thing, which was the cases for the compliance, cases for the upscale, cases for the cross-sell, and cases for the migration to the cloud. Another example on the same thing, which has been a big success for us in the US, for healthcare industry, for exactly the same architecture. If you see, and if you try to compare the other one that we showed for the marketing, this has got the sources like the hospital EMR, EHR, then claims data and all, right? So providers data and claims data, it is coming, and it has got same 4 module, and this is running for last 1.5 years in Blue Cross Blue Shield, Genia, in Capital Blue Cross in US, the same model. And how do they do the marketing part? Using engager and collaborator. These are the 2 interfaces. So the architecture for this, the whole ecosystem, and if you see the rule engine, and in case of their modeler, they do a lot of other healthcare specific analytics, which is like, it is like risk adjustments, disease cohort, etc. So based on a vertical, this will change. The engagement models, the engagement, way of engaging will change. For example, in healthcare, if you see the engager, there are a lot of companies in India also are doing very good. Practo is, for example. They have the app through which they engage the consumer or the patients with the providers. So there might be thousands of ways this engagement model can work and grow. So this example I'm skipping, this is another from the insurance domain. The time is up, so I have to finish fast. So that is the gist. So if we do a data-driven marketing, we can target our customers, we can optimize our customer engagements, customer retention and loyalty. These are all, the output is very simple, like these are the outcome. Any question? Any question from anybody? Okay, thank you very much.